Over the past couple of years, what with COVID and all, the threat of global nuclear destruction is probably not at the top of your list of things to worry about. Then, Russia invaded Ukraine, and Vladimir Putin's nuclear threats reminded us all that Russia's got a lot of nuclear weapons, and it's willing to risk us all blundering into a nuclear fiasco. Do we have to worry about this? Yeah, we do. But maybe not for the reason you think. These days, when we talk about stopping a nuclear war, we really have to talk about computers. All computers and the things they control can be hacked. Refrigerators have been hacked, the power grid has been hacked, you name it. Even the Pentagon has been hacked. They all rely on computers, and so do nuclear weapons. Right now, the US is working on modernizing its nuclear weapon systems and moving away from floppy disks and outdated code. That sounds like a good idea. But there's a big problem. The US Government Accountability Office found mission-critical cyber vulnerabilities in nearly all the weapon systems that are currently under development by the Department of Defense. In one test, a two-person team hacked into a weapon system in less than an hour. In another test, a team guessed the administrator password in 9 seconds. A third team discovered that multiple systems were running commercial software protected by passwords that no one had bothered to change, from the factory settings, passwords that could be found with a Google search. America's nuclear weapon systems are, in a word, vast. So it's not hard to imagine the possibility that some bad actor somewhere could find a way to sneak malware into a component or hack into system software. In fact, something like that actually happened. In 2020, the Russian military intelligence, the GRU, hacked into a US IT company called SolarWinds. The GRU hid malware in a software update that was then distributed to 14,000 customers, including government agencies like the Department of Homeland Security. Russian spies were free to roam around corporate networks and government networks for over 9 months until that hack was detected quite by accident. So, what if someone were able to hack their way into the US nuclear command and control system? Let's say they wanted to start a war between Russia and the United States. Theoretically, they could trigger a false alarm, making us think that Russian nuclear weapons were on their way. Under current US protocols, the president has just minutes to decide whether or not to launch a retaliatory strike and thereby start a full-blown nuclear war. That sounds terrifying, right? Well, here's what you need to know. We can make this situation better. For the first time since the end of the Cold War, the US government is formally reviewing its fail-safe procedures to reduce the likelihood of an unauthorized or even a mistaken nuclear launch. As citizens, it's up to us to demand that our elected officials take the cybersecurity of nuclear weapons seriously. We need to make sure that our brightest minds and our most accomplished tech experts, from outside as well as inside the government, are working on this issue. Because as long as nuclear weapons exist, our cyber defense has to match the pace of technology. And right now, we really need to do a better job. Ultimately, the only way to ensure that these weapons are never used is to negotiate verifiable arms control agreements and perhaps even eliminate nuclear weapons entirely one day. Global nuclear arms control. Now, that might seem like an audacious vision, but as someone who spent a career at the intersection of technology and national security, I've seen a lot of things happen that no one thought was possible. People said we could never get a treaty banning chemical weapons, and we did. They said we could never get a treaty banning biological weapons. We did that too. When I started working at the Pentagon way back in 1974, at the height of the Cold War, nobody thought we could successfully negotiate with Russia. But we ended up, through negotiations, deactivating or destroying about 2/3 of our nuclear weapons and Russia's. Fast forward from 1974 to now. Now, 9 countries have nuclear weapons. And even though tensions are on the rise among the world's biggest nuclear powers, all 9 of these countries share a common interest in avoiding a miscalculation. Because nuclear weapons detonated anywhere would have catastrophic implications for the entire planet, possibly even creating a global nuclear winter in which millions would die. Will the work of controlling, producing, and perhaps eliminating nuclear weapons be hard? Of course. Will it require people like you pushing our leaders for safer and saner policies? Yes, it will. The sooner we start, the sooner we'll get there. Future generations are counting on us.